My void will consume you, if you ask nicely.
Your will is no longer your own.
Stay away from the FRONTDOOR. To arms!
You have led the Horde to a place without honor.
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
Our world needs us, champion.
You got you over your head.
We cannot let the world fall to darkness.
We're already lost.
Put your faith in the light, and all is possible.
Is it truly righteousness that drives you? I wonder.
It would seem you have guessed.
They are coming for you. This is the Whispers of War.
Hello everyone and welcome to show 99 of Whispers of War. I of course am your host Sil, and we're doing it a little bit different today because normally I would start with how was my week actually in WoW, but I am going to start with the Twitter questions of the week because for reasons that I will say later on. Anyhow, I will tell you about my week in WoW after the interview. But first I'm going to talk about the question of the week, which was, which class would you guys recommend for me to play in Shadowlands? And I got some replies. I think some of you just thought, you know what, this is what I'm going to play, so therefore you should play it, which is fine. I think that's a legit reason. So let's look what Twitter said to this. It's really weird doing this out of order, but you will see why. So Megax is still wearing a mask, said definitely Shadow Priest. I tried it on the PTR and quite liked the changes. Was never partake. Fond of Insanity and Void form. VF, I have no. Is that Void form? Is a DPS cooldown now, and the spec feels fresh and fun. I might have found my new main for Shadowlands. I can't wait to play my Night Elf Priest with all the new customization options, leaves in her hair, new wild hairstyle, and the beautiful necklace with the matching tiara. Oh, and orange hair. Can you hear how excited I am? But that's a big thing, isn't it? I think customization is something that could make or break your character in a way, because I think for a lot of us, not for everyone, but for a lot of us, it really, really makes the character. And it makes it, you know, sometimes you have more fun playing that character because of how they look. So I've heard good things about Shadow Priests, and they've done a 180 on that one, so that's really interesting. I'm curious to see what they're going to do for the rest of the classes in these weeks. So Bolfra, the beleaguered one, said Arcane Mage, lots of fun to blow stuff up from a safe distance. Again, I've heard good things about Arcane Mages. I think, is it Frost that needs to get a little bit of a nerf, or maybe even Arcane? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, another ranged class. So Ryan said, with the new features for all the races, my Night Elf Druid is more than likely going to be my main in Shadowlands. That's hard because my Human Mage has been my ultimate for Burning Crusade, Wrath, Legion and BFA. Didn't play in Kata. My Druid was my main in Mists and WoD though. So I asked why the Druid, and he said that he's having a blast right now on his Druid at the end of BFA. So that's good because I couldn't enjoy Druid. And I had a bit of issues with a Boomy on PTR. I know that they've changed them a little bit, but still not convinced. Hear good things about Feral though. That's a nice change. So yeah, Feral Druid. Maybe I'll do that. I'm not quite sure if that's what Ryan means. But I don't know which spec it's going to be, but there's a Druid there. Scrubs versus the World said, I haven't read any of the class changes yet, so please take this with a grain of salt. Knowing what I know of you, so that's me, I think a rogue is in order. I've been hearing good things. Again, I have no idea if those are really good, lol, but I think you'd rock a good rogue. I don't know if I would rock it, but I definitely would play it. So yeah, who knows Rogue. Bones, my lovely guild master, said you have been dabbling in the melee, so either try Fury Warrior, which is great fun, or what about Shaman? If you fancy a change and going pew pew, Lux are looking very good. Lux is one of those that I've been very, very curious about. I hear a lot of people go that Warlock is just amazing. I don't know about the class fantasy though. But Warlock is one of those that definitely interesting, I think. A Fury Warrior, yeah. I mean, Fury Warrior is amazing. I really, really enjoy that. And Shaman, I quite like Enhance. I know that Elemental seems to be having some issues. So, yeah, we'll see. Frasley Sparkson said, Paladin, the self-heals can help keep you alive so much. That is very true. And I do have a soft spot for Paladins, even though I don't like the class fantasy. But that's me. Berserker said, oh, I think you know damn well the right answer to this one. I think that would be Warrior. So, another one for the Warrior there. Right, let's continue. Jared said, Revendreth Rogue is definitely a character I'm going to make. Definitely a solid choice. But if you're looking for a change-up, contrary to popular belief, there is a build for Frost Decay that allows you to attack really fast that is super fun to play. Funnily enough, I watched Preach's stream this morning and he's been ripped into for disliking Frost Death Knight. I think he doesn't feel that way completely anymore. But it's been interesting. I hear good things about Death Knights though, really good things. And I think one of my best friends, she's actually going from Paladin, I think she was Paladin Priest to a Death Knight. So that feels like the other end of the whole, light, and then you go to a bit more dark. The Crosshair said, always Druid always. Yep, I can understand that, and they continue because druids do it all: melee, range, heal, tank, and with style. I do have to admit that a lot of the shapeshift forms are really, really cool, except for Moonkin. Moonkin needs a bit of an update. So that was really it for your recommendations, and the reason why is that I actually did settle on a class, or should I say classes, but I will explain all of that after the interview. So I'll leave you now with the interview, and I'll see you on the flip side and tell you how my week in World of Warcraft was. And with me today, I'm being joined by a brand new voice all the way from America. Someone, when you hear the name, you might recognize from Blizzardwatch. Welcome, Honors.
Hi, how's it going?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're having a really, really pretty day here.
Ah, that's always nice. That's always nice. We had a lot of rain, but at the moment, we have some sunshine. So, at least I don't have to go out in my garden and to water the plants again. I guess that's something.
If you were here, they'd be watered for you. So the sky takes care of that.
But you know what? I do like a bit of rain because afterwards it always smells so nice.
Well, we've got high humidity here, so it feels like, imagine you just took a shower and walked outside. Like how you feel all the time.
That might not be so good then. I'll take my words back on that. All right, so Honors, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do on the internet?
Sure. Well, my name in real life is Ted, but everybody knows me as Honors Hammer, and I go by Honors. I've been playing World of Warcraft since late vanilla. The overwhelming majority of that time as a protection paladin. And I started 4 years ago. I started writing for Blizzardwatch as their protection paladin columnist, and I've kind of branched out since we don't do class columns anymore. I've kind of branched out into covering Overwatch and Hearthstone and WoW, of course, for them. So, just whatever happens to be the hot topic. The title is staff writer for them. So.
Okay. How did that all come to pass for you to start writing for them?
Well, I've been a fan of Blizzardwatch since before they were Blizzardwatch. They started out as a site called WoW Insider way back in the day, and I was a huge fan of them. And I was talking to and interacting with their protection paladin writer a guy named Riddock, who, and I'm probably mispronouncing that. Sorry if you're listening. But anyway, great guy, fantastic guy. But he was going to have to step down because of having a child. So I reached out to him, and I'm like, hey, do you have any replacement in mind? So he got me in touch with the team there, Blizzardwatch, Alex, and the other guys, Elizabeth, and some of the editors there, and I applied, and they looked. I was doing a blog at the time. I've been blogging on my own at on a site called Blogspot, Honors Code. Back in BC, I was one of the very few people talking about protection paladins because prop paladins were not accepted in the community at all. Like, we weren't supposed to exist. Like, we weren't tanks, and I was really fighting that battle in BC. So I was blogging about it, and they kind of saw my stuff there, and they said, yeah, we'll bring you on, we'll try you out. And for the past 4 years, it's been an amazing ride. They've been so great. Elizabeth Harper is one of the lead editors. She has taught me so much about writing, about presenting arguments, about just being entertaining as you're delivering information. She is just an incredible editor and has taught me so much.
That's really cool. So how does it work? Do you get asked to write a certain article, or are they like, okay, you can do whatever you want as long as it has to do with paladins, if it's World of Warcraft, or do you get like a range of subjects you can pick from?
So when I first started out with them, I was strictly the prop paladin columnist, and then when we had to drop the class columns, the spec columns, just because we didn't have the resources for them anymore. So basically, the way it works now is I cover the Tavern Brawl every week in Hearthstone. Hearthstone is a card game from Blizzard. I don't know if you're that familiar with it, but anyway, they have this weekly kind of crazy mode called Tavern Brawl. So each week I'll cover that, and then so there's two ways. There's a queue of things that they're like, hey, we need this written. And then we can also suggest things. If we want to write something, we can pitch it to the editors, and they'll kind of give us a yay or a nay. But there's always a queue of, we need these things written and covered and whatnot. So
nice. Oh, that's really nice. So you do get a little bit of freedom to suggest your own things as well.
Oh, absolutely. There have been several of the topics. I recently did an article on the Covenant system and how I thought that the Covenant system should be changed up. They obviously aren't going to implement any ideas, but that was an idea that I like. I came to them. I'm like, hey, this. I really want to cover this because this whole idea of tying player power to this covenant, it's never going to work. And I think there's a better way forward. And I know they they won't like, oh yeah, we're gonna take Ted's idea and we're gonna run with it. It's like, that's not going to happen. But I wanted to talk about it on our site, so I did.
Okay, that's really cool. I like hearing that creative process. Does it take you long to write an article, or is it really, if it's something you're passionate about, it just flows out the pen?
So it kind of depends. There's the more newsy type of articles. The Tavern Brawl stuff I can knock out pretty quick because it's pretty formulaic at this point. It's like, hey, here's the brawl, these are the rules, and here's how you win. The stuff like the Covenant article I did an article back in Legion about how the Broken Shore didn't work as a pretense for war. Those take a lot longer. Those take maybe a week, and that we'll go back and forth with the editors a couple times. I did one on what broke the Machine of Death. That took me a while to do. So it just depends on the article. Some of them take longer than others.
That's really nice. I just like to hear how that all goes. But yeah, wow, that's so cool. I'm just flabbergasted because I really like reading the articles on Blizzardwatch. So yeah, my hat goes off to you guys with writing all of that stuff, because it can't be easy, especially with so much stuff going into the community as well, and everyone has their opinions and stuff. How do you feel when because people can leave comments on articles? How do you feel if someone would, let's just say, disagrees with something that you've said?
Well, so I had the advantage of blogging all the way back to BC, so however long ago that was. I'm not doing the math well. So commenters were something that I've dealt with for a long time. I generally don't read a ton of them, and even if I get one that's that's pretty negative, the comments that I worry about, the comments that affect me, are the ones from my editors. Like what somebody says in the comments doesn't really bother me. It's like, dude, I got your click. I mean, write what you want.
That's true. That's very true.
I mean, hey, you're gonna, we rank the top 10 articles every month. So hey, I got your clicks. So,
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Okay, let's jump into the Warcraft side of things.
Sure.
So, what everyone wants to know: a horde or alliance?
Well, so my main is on the alliance side, but what I always tell people when they ask me this question is, I serve the light. So
okay,
my main is on the alliance, but if it ever came between the light or the alliance, I would go with the light.
Do I feel an argent crusader here?
Hey, Club Uther, Club Tyrion, Team Tyrion, Team Uther. Yeah, I'm much more. That's where my loyalties truly lie is along those lines. But my main's on the alliance. I like eagles, and I like lions, and I like blues, and I like the cities better. It just I'm more an alliance guy than a horde guy. But horde's cool. They're fine.
Okay. So you've just said that Paladin. Is Paladin still your main?
Yeah, there have only been, so I've been playing since late vanilla. There's only been 2 expansions, which was Cataclysm and BFA. There's only 2 where I haven't mained Paladin. Okay,
what did you main instead at that time?
So both times, interestingly enough, I went with Survival Hunter, and there was a very different class in Cataclysm and BFA, but both times I went with my Survival Hunter.
Okay. Out of curiosity, have you ever, alongside your Alliance Paladin, leveled anything on the Horde side?
So on my Horde side is where my druids are. I've got Dino Druid on the Horde. Those were so cool forms. So I've got my Dino Druid over there, and I think I tried a mage over there, and that lasted about. I boosted a mage in WoD. I played it for about a week and hated it and never touched it again. So he's sitting over there. But I've got my druid is basically my main, because for BFA I wanted to see both sides of the story, right? Because they were going to be very, very different stories. So I went ahead and I brought my Survival Hunter up on the Alliance side, and then I leveled. It wasn't a Dino Druid at the time; it was a Tauren Druid. That's my Tauren Druid. So I leveled him up, and so for some reason I play druids on the Horde side. I don't know. It's very weird.
Okay, no, I can understand some people just enjoy it more on one side than on the other side, if that makes sense. Sometimes it's just also, especially with druids, it's the shapes that sometimes it just appeals more to you than the other side.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did it all start for you? How did World of Warcraft become your vice?
So my very best friend in the world at the time was living with us. He was getting ready to move back home, and we were putting him up for about 6 months. But when he got back home, he got a job at Blizzard as a GM. And when you get a job at Blizzard, they give you 3 friends and family accounts. Because I always told him that, I had an interest in WoW, but, I just couldn't afford a monthly subscription. So he's like, well, now you don't have to, because it's free.
Oh, wow.
So I started playing and absolutely just fell in love with the game. The first time, I don't know if it happens the same way, but back in vanilla, that very first time you walk into Stormwind and you see those statues and the music comes up and there's this giant city, and I just fell in love with the world and the game. I'd played a ton of Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne and all of that. So I was familiar with it, but just to experience it in that way, I was totally hooked. He got fired 6 months later, and I swear I think I was more upset than he was, because I was going to start paying for my WoW subscription.
But at that point, the game had already pulled you in.
I was done. I was in love. I really was. I just I love the game and the world, and I was just having so much fun with it, and it was just incredible.
That's really good. That I always like hearing those stories, and I think I had something similar as soon as I went into Teldrassil.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. That was
Ancients.
Yeah, and it's that music, you know,
Yes,
and you're just
yes.
like, oh, that bank looks amazing. And yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, you just, it knows how to hook you. So.
They got it down, man.
Okay. Now, talking about the beginnings, when Classic was announced and it went live, were you one of those people who wanted to go back into Classic just to, you know, I always say rose-colored goggles, but that's not really how I want to say it, because I know that a lot of people actually are enjoying Classic a lot. So did you go back, or were you a bit like, no, I've done my time, I can't do that anymore now?
So I started playing World of Warcraft just before Encourage, in vanilla. So I'm like, at first I'm like, you know, I've kind of been there, I've kind of done that. But as we were progressing through BFA was not something I was really having a ton of fun with. I didn't enjoy the story, and the rating was getting to the point that, you know, I've been playing this game for a little while, since, you know, I mean, I've been playing this game for 15 years. I don't quite have the reaction times that I did 15 years ago. So rating has gotten a lot harder for me. I was getting really kind of frustrated with the game. So I actually went Classic kind of hardcore for a little while. And I had been Alliance in vanilla. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see what the Horde was like. I'm going to be a shaman, because I'd been a paladin. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see what this shaman thing is doing. So I leveled a Horde shaman and raided all the way through BWL, and then kind of started to realize what Classic raiding required. We were starting to talk about resist gear for AQ and farming and oh, you got to log on at this time to get this world buff, but you got to log on at that time for that world buff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I just need to, like, you know, and finding groups was just impossible. I'm like, no, I just need to be able to log on, do my thing, and you know, get on with my life. So, so I told my girl, I'm like, guys, I'm having a blast. You know, the resto shaman's a lot of fun, but I can't do this anymore. So, so I went ahead and shut down Classic. But for the 6 or 7 months that I played it, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. I think a lot of people try it out, and some people enjoy the slower leveling, if that's what what I have to mention, what is a big point in there. Some people like that, other people just don't have the time for that. But I think, yeah, the end game thing, that's a whole different thing with the world buffs.
Yeah,
that is not always so easy to schedule. And I think the most the biggest complaint I've heard from people who went back and then thought, no, I can't do this, is time. Because a lot of people can't do what they did 15 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, I just couldn't put, you know, and you know, there's this kind of talk about a BC server, which I got really excited about, because BC was really when I kind of came into my own. I mean, I was in the Protection Paladin community. We were a very tight-knit community because, you know, we weren't supposed to exist. Nobody wanted us. And there was a site back then called Main Tankin', and we all came together, and I'm like, oh man, to do that again. And then I remembered like how much time I was playing back then and the farming I was doing back then. I'm like, I can't do that now. Like, I've got kids now. I've got other responsibilities now. I've got other dreams that I want to pursue now that I didn't have back then. So it's like, no, I can't, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do BC class. I'm like, no, I can't. I've got other passions I want to pursue now than just, you know, being a full-time Warcraft player. Yeah, no, completely understandable. Okay. You did say that BFA wasn't that much fun for you at the time, but what would you say is the current thing that you do in BFA? So my big thing in BFA right now, I came, you know, after I got done with Classic, I came back, and when I came back, my guild had transferred off of our server. They were gone. Okay. And so without a guild, WoW's kind of not the same game. So I kind of was aimless for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, and then I found another guild on my server, and I started raiding with them. They're a great group of people. They were getting stuff done, and I was really falling in love with the BFA version of Holy Paladin, which I had Holy was like forced on me in vanilla and BC, so I really like had this like, no, I am never ever going to be holy. Like, you can't make me be holy. And I started playing around with this Glimmer Paladin, this Shadowlands build that BFA kind of gave birth to. I'm like, this is so much freaking fun. I love this. So much so that like I'm planning on maining a Holy Paladin going into Shadowlands.
Oh, wow.
And I really hope that playstyle survives. So the Holy Paladin community is like split in two between, we love the Shotgun style. No, we want to go back to being like more traditional casting healers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious to see how that all plays out. But I'm really having a blast. I've got my ahead of the curve. So raiding is big right now. I'm also working on leveling up some support tunes on this server. I need an alchemist to make me potions and that kind of stuff. So, but just had a lot of fun with my guild. Like I said, we've cleared Nyalotha. We'll probably clear it 3 or 4 more times before the pre-patch, and then see what happens from there.
Okay, and of course, we have the announcement that Shadowlands is not going to be that long of a wait anymore. I think it's 2 months now, less than 2 months.
Gosh, yeah, 60 days. Well, 58
that sounds,
now. Not that I'm counting.
Everyone's like, okay, another day just off their calendar. It's weird thinking about it like that, really. 60, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that. Okay, so at least we have something now to look forward to. So what are your thoughts and feelings regarding Shadowlands?
I'm really intrigued by it. The story seems like, I mean, I'm sure you saw the Afterlife's Bastion, which was just, incredible. Like my boy Uther, that was so good. The team there, the whole team there, Taron Gregory and his team are just amazing with what they put out from an art perspective. So I'm really excited about, finally getting, some of these answers and pulling on these story threads and seeing where all this is going. At the same time, I'm really, kind of cautious about, what's going to happen to Holy Paladin. Is it going to be this incredible fun thing that I've discovered late here in BFA that I really, just can't stop playing and just really love playing? Or is it going to morph back into this other kind of healing Paladin that I wasn't as excited about playing? And, am I going to need to, I'm actually leveling a monk and a shaman kind of as a backup plan to, oh my gosh, I hate Holy Paladin, but my guild still needs me to be a healer. I'm kind of got the monk and the shaman leveling up as a backup plan. So
okay. What did you think about because Afterlife, when I watched it, I thought was like, I love the style, I love the art style that they always go with them, but also just seeing Uther again was really, really cool. And we knew that he was going to be back, but just to see him like that and to see him ascend and everything. However, I got some, I don't know. I don't know if you're much of a Diablo player, but seeing Bastion and how the Kyrians react to things reminded me a lot of the High Heavens and the angels of Diablo. And I thought, I get a weird double vibe from this. Like, okay, they want their, the fact that she kept on saying vengeance, and I thought, is that the way that we're going? Are these like a vengeful, angels or something, or,
Yeah, and you've played the beta, so you kind of know where that story is going. But I won't get too much into that because it's a really good story that I hope people enjoy. But I really that cinematic was incredible. I know people get a little weirded out by Bastion because there's this Devos comes and guys, there's this giant problem over here. They're like this guy just murdered somebody. They're like, get back to the path. We're not dealing with this right now. It's like, well, wait a minute. I just told you there's this horrible evil, and you're and the Archon's like, no, everything is fine. So there's one of two options in my mind. Either they are just completely blind, or the Archon's in on it. Those are the only two options. The Archon's like, yeah, I know, and be quiet. We're working on something. Plus, the fact that there's some mystery on the Archon in the beta as well. So it's got to be one of those two things. I mean, they do. I know a lot of people like, you know, because I'm like, from the moment I saw Bastion, I'm like, I was made for this. Like the wings and the whole aesthetic of it. I mean, I've not been in beta, but I've watched, you know, some streamers and YouTubers, and when they go up to the sanctum or whatever it is in Bastion, I don't know what it's called because I'm not in the beta. But my gosh, when you look out and you see the views and the vistas, and I'm just like, yes, that is just, I'm just locked. I'm like, I don't care what their abilities are. I don't care what their signature abilities are. I don't care what their soul binds are. Just let me be Bastion.
I think I really like it that there's more to, well, not just Bastion, but, you know, you get the feeling. And again, don't worry, listeners, I'm not going to spoil anything. If we do, we will put spoilers in there. But you do get the feeling that there's more than what you first see. Because I remember Bastion got announced and everyone was like, no, we're going Venthyr because of vampires. And then, you know, Bastion seemed to be one of the least ones that people wanted to go, except from a lot of paladins. I have to admit, I heard a lot of paladins go, that's where I'm going.
Yes.
Just because it seemed a little bit like, oh yeah, it all just looks goody two shoes and just, you know, all for the light. Whereas I just always get the feeling with every covenant that we have, it is not what they seem on first sight. There's more going on with all of them, because that would be, in my opinion, it would be too easy and it would be too bland. So there needs to be more story to it. Yeah, I mean, there's you know, I mean, you've got somebody like, you know, like Krista Golden, who's just an incredible writer. You know, she's going to craft a tale that's going to have twists and turns and things you don't expect. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing, because I've loved some of the books she did. I mean, Before the Storm was absolutely amazing. So I'm really excited. And each of these covenants, again, I'm not in the beta, so all this is secondhand to me. But it seems like with the Devos character we just saw in the short there, like each of these covenants have a character that you're like, hey, I could see myself hanging out with this person. You know, like, this is a really cool character, and I really, you know, I could see myself, you know, like hanging out. And I'm sure there's one like that with the Venthyr and with the Night Fae and even with, you know, the metal dudes in Maldraxxus. So. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Talking about the covenants, so you wrote that article about the player power in the covenants, that it's not the best idea. But how do you feel about the covenants? Do you think like the idea was all right, but the execution of what they've put in there, not really happy with it? What's your view on the covenants?
Yeah, so the covenants were a great idea. They are fantastic as far as, you know, putting in an RP kind of choice in there. The problem is that I think they came from it because Ian and a lot of those guys, they're of an age that they played a lot of tabletop, and I think they're still coming at it from a tabletop RPG kind of mindset, where you know, where you would make choices, but they, you know, and there's a min-max community in tabletop RPGs, but it's not that important, right? In a computer RPG, it's much more important about min-maxing and you know, doing everything you can, you know, for the group and making yourself the absolute best you can. So by tying player power to this, you've actually taken the choice away more so than you've given it, because it's like, yeah, you may want to be this, but, you know, you're going to be, you know, so much better off as, you know, a Venthyr when you really want to be a Necrolord, you know. So that was a mistake. There was I can't remember the guy's name I was talking to on Twitter, had a fantastic idea about what they should have done was make these the Bartlett types. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're basically there are these 4 types of gamers that you have, and they if you played WildStar did a really good job of basing things on these types. So you've got your killers, you've got your explorers, you got your socializers, and you have your achievers. Well, each of those the covenants really could have been tuned around each of those. Like the Venthyr could have been your social covenant, and Maldraxxus kind of for your killers, and Bastion for your achievers, and Night Fae for your explorers. And the mini games and everything could have built around, okay, we know this is your type, this is how you enjoy the game. So let's build everything around that. And then things like soulbinds and conduits, that could have all been a singular system that applied throughout. Like at the bottom of your covenant tree, then you'd have the 4 signature abilities that you could pick from. You can choose between. You're gonna. I presume you're gonna meet all the soulbinds throughout your questing. So okay, well, I'm gonna be. I'm gonna hang out with this soulbind today, and next week maybe it's this Vinther soulbind, or now I'm gonna hang out with this Bastion soulbind. So there was nothing really story-wise preventing them from opening up all the soulbinds and letting people are going to min-max in this game. They're just going to do it. So the minute you tie player power to it, it's like the old argument we had in Classic about, we had all these talents, so you could do all these crazy hybrid and custom builds. No, you couldn't. Whether you had all those talents we had in Classic or this 5 or 6 we have now, there were accepted builds. Like, this is your build. You're a what was I in Classic? I was a 24-0-32 Resto Shaman or something like that. I can't remember. Or there were like 3 builds of Resto Shaman that were acceptable, and you either used those or you were doing it wrong, and you could you're going to get flack from your raid leader, or you're going to maybe not get into groups and that kind of thing. So the mistake they made with Covenants, I feel like, is they had this really, really cool RP choice, and it would have worked great until they tied player power to it with the soulbinds and the conduits. So
yeah, that's something that will be interesting. I wonder if they're still working on it behind the scenes and just not saying anything, because let's face it, the first 2 weeks, well, maybe the first week, I don't think that whole thing with the Covenants is really going to be that detrimental yet to keep grinding for them. And I think they also want to stop that a little bit, the whole grind for things anyway. So, they still have a few weeks to do something behind it, or even lock it, or maybe say, okay, in this patch it will be unlocked or something. I don't know. It's an interesting one. And it's one that I've been a little bit hesitant about, especially also with the when they announced, and there's legendaries you can craft and this and this, and I thought that's going to be okay. I need a third-party website again to check what I need to do because it's just a lot of work. But it does seem that, and I have to admit, I watched a video by Preach this morning about some of the things to explain things bite-sized. It seems a bit easier now than what it initially felt like. So we will have to see, I guess. Are you still, after everything that you've seen, and also after seeing Afterlife, still sticking with the Kyrians?
Oh, no doubt. There's going to have to be some huge reason that says don't go there. I think Ian said in one of the BlizzCon interviews that they've got a fail-safe where they can open it up, let you have all of the. They're going. They've got this fail-safe button that they can push. The problem I see is with the timeline. 2 weeks after launch, we're raiding. There's no time. There's no time to work that out now because of how short the window is. I mean, you're going to have to log in. You're going to have to bust your tail to get to max level. I assume. I mean, it usually takes me a week or two to get to max level, I think. And then farm up your legendaries, farm up your renown. Get your gear from get your pre-raid gear. I mean, 2 weeks is really quick to get leveled up and get ready. And I wonder, has Blizzard forgotten the Weekender? With a lot of these systems, this especially with the Nyalothus, the assaults and the visions and all, it really seemed like they forgot about the Weekender. That guy who works Monday through Friday and just plays on Saturday and Sunday as an escape. Have we forgotten about that player in all this?
The general consensus of what I've heard from people is the 10th of November already for the first raid to be open. That is very quick.
Yeah.
That's very quick. I don't know if it was the same in BFA, but I don't think that was the case.
We got 3 weeks in BFA between launch and season 1.
Yeah, that I don't know. I think 2 weeks is really like almost nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The Weekender, unfortunately, I guess, you know, for a lot of people, it's just okay. You have to book holiday, and not that I'm going to complain because I am booking my holidays, but it's just not everyone is in that position, because if you have kids or anything, you know, you tend to book your holiday off around the time that school holidays are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
unfortunately,
very interesting.
I can't, because I actually took the week before off because I'm taking my wife on that's our wedding anniversary. So I'm taking my wife on a wedding anniversary trip the week before. I'm like, well, there's no way it'll launch that early.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of people was very surprised with that. But, you know, also, I guess in a way pleasantly surprised, because I think we're all kind of ready now for things to shift over, really.
Yes. Absolutely.
So when it comes to the Covenants, and I know that you're mostly going to be a paladin, if that's still the class that will be to your liking at the time of launch. Say that you are going to level another character. Will you say that it's going to be a druid? I'm just, you know, you said druid, shaman, or what was the other one that you said? Monk.
Yeah.
From those classes, would you want to pick a different Covenant just because you want to see everything, or are you like, no, I'll go with the Covenant that I like best, or how would you pick?
So my plan, my original plan had been to level 4 tunes, one for each Covenant. Mm-hmm. My hunter was originally going to be my Night Fae tune because that made a lot of sense to me. And then my shaman, who's Dark Iron, was going to be Venthyr, because I figured Dark Iron's got some sins to attend for. Mm-hmm. And then I guess I wasn't really sure what to do for my Maldraxxus tune. I mean, I'm like, well, I've got the monk. He needs a Covenant. I guess I could put him out. Maldraxxus is like the one that has the least appeal to me. But like, you know, the monks have that green kind of smoky stuff, and Maldraxxus kind of is greenish. So I'm like, yeah, it kind of works. But Maldraxxus is one that I'm not super excited about. I may end up putting the monk in Night Fae as well. Night Fae and Bastion kind of appeal to me the most. Venthyr I'm really curious about. I mean, like, it doesn't so much appeal to me on the surface, but I think there might be more to it after I kind of level through the zone. And plus, I think my Dark Iron might be a really good fit there. So I may put the monk in Maldraxxus just to complete the set, or I may put the monk in Night Fae because Maldraxxus just doesn't do much for me.
Okay, so no min-maxing of, oh, this is the best damage for this class, and purely this would fit best class-wise. Yeah,
I mean, definitely not for any of my alts. And I would consider it on main, but my guild's what's called an AOTC guild, ahead of the curve guild. We generally don't do mythic rating. So at the point of rating where we're at, that level of min-maxing really isn't needed. So I feel so strongly about Bastion that I would almost be like, look guys, you're just going to have to accept that I'm 5% worse because I just love these guys so much.
And I think you're not the only one who thinks that way, because again, it's like with classes, you know, it's flavor of the month at times. And who's to say that they're not going to tweak any of the abilities that you get from the Covenants? They can do a lot still. So I think tying yourself to something just because of min-max could not work in the end for you. But
you're always one patch away. You're one patch away from being flavor of the month, and you're one patch away from being trash tier.
Yeah,
you're one patch away.
Very true. So talking about different ways of doing things with alts and all those things. So we're getting a whole new leveling system, which is great. It will make things fresher. So with this new leveling way, if you would have to level an alt from the beginning, say that you would level I'm just going to pick a random class, a warlock. Would you then go, okay, you know what, warlock, I love Burning Crusade, so I'm just going to stay in Burning Crusade? Or are you like, actually no, a warlock would fit so much better in, I know Legion is not technically part of it, but I'm going to just level in Legion because that fits better with the class. So would you pick for class, or would you go for like favorite expansion, or how would you pick?
Yeah, I think for me it would be like, okay, well, what would make most sense? Like my shaman, if I was leveling a shaman, I wanted to go through Cataclysm because that was kind of a shaman expansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I leveled through all of these when they were current content anyway, so I kind of know. I mean, I'm really looking forward to doing 1 through 10. I've heard that Exile's Reach is really, really cool, so that'll be really new and fresh. And then after that, I'd be like, yeah, you know, a shaman would probably go to Cataclysm, a paladin would probably go to Wrath. A monk would definitely go to Myth, you know. So basically, you know, what class was really, you know, druids would work really well with all the druid stuff in Legion. You know, Val Shara was a really nice druidy kind of zone and doing all that. So I think it would be based on the class and what expansion was kind of that class's kind of, you know, spotlight expansion.
Okay, fair enough. Now that we are sort of at peace, how do you feel about the factions? And I know there's been a lot of debate about the factions as it is anyway, with the people saying, you know, it's time to abolish it, it's time to have a third faction, a neutral one. So how do you feel about the factions at the moment?
Strongly. I have been a huge proponent of the end of the faction war. It should have been over in MOP. At the very least, it should have been over after MOP. And it definitely, I mean, BFA was the perfect opportunity. I mean, it could have been over after Legion when we all came to. I mean, think about Dreamgrove. If you played any Druid in Legion, you know, think about how the Horde and Alliance Druids work together. Think about the Netherlight Temple, where you had undead, and I mean, and Christy Golden does such a beautiful job of illustrating this in Before the Storm. We were, you know, I mean, it's why I didn't want to level honors in BFA. I just spent the whole expansion hanging out with Leandrin. Like, she was one of the companions you could take with you. You remember you had that whole system where you could take one of your champions with you when you were questing? Well, my dwarf paladin took Leandrin. I'm probably mispronouncing her name. I'm sorry, I've only read it. But he spent and then the very first thing we were supposed to do in BFA was the Warfront for Arathi, where she was the commander. I'm like, no, my paladin is not going. My paladin will walk off the battlefield before he takes up arms against this friend that he made. So we've got this cycle, and I mean, it was so frustrating because there were so many hints throughout BFA. I mean, you know, Sarfang saying we're breaking the cycle. And Thrall and Jaina, you know, what's different this time? We are. There were so many hints that they were finally going to let it go. And then we turn around and it's like, no. And we had Ian Hazakostas at BlizzCon call the faction conflict the beating heart of Warcraft. I'm like, dude, you just don't get it. It's old, it's tired, it's unoriginal. All I want to do is play with my friends. I don't care if they're a Tauren or if they're a Night Elf or anything else. I just want to play with my friends.
Do you think you would be okay with the whole? Because you know, I agree to you with a certain extent, because I understand, you know, story wise, it sets up, you know, that really Horde and Alliance leaders, most of them are quite okay with each other. There's a few who don't see eye to eye, but it doesn't feel as hostile as it used to be. Do you think that it would be better to still have the factions so that you have that, you know, because people do feel very strongly about faction identity, and keep that, but have something like a mercenary mode so it's just easier to just go to the other faction if you want to play with your friends, or anything like that? I mean, or are you completely like, no, completely get rid of all of it?
The factions themselves are fine. I think the only thing that really has to happen is one, the faction conflict needs to drop out of the storyline, and not. I mean, it's just been this cycle. You know, it just let's not go back. And I'm very worried that there are hints in Shadowlands that they are setting it up to go right back into a faction conflict. I mean, they're just, you know, I don't want to go too much into that, but anyway, there are hints there that we're going to go right back into it to my mind. But all they really need to do, the factions can stay. You can be Horde, you can be Alliance, if they'll just let any race, you know, PvE together. Just let me, just let us join. Let me, as a dwarf paladin, join a horde guild. I'd be totally fine with that. You know, let my friend, as you know, my really good friend who loves his undead death knight, let him come over to my alliance guild. You know, just that to me. I mean, if you want to keep the factions, you want to keep yelling, you know, for the horde or whatever. I mean, that's great. Yeah, I don't think the factions need to be abolished, but if we just let people join guilds of the other faction, but keep their original race. I mean, look, the Argent Crusade does it. The Earthen Ring does it. The Cenarian Circle does it. The Dark Moon Fair does it. Like, there's no reason why we couldn't have a group of adventurers that includes races from both factions.
Yeah, I agree. And especially now with the Knights of the Ebonblade. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
Or is it Ebonhold? One of the two. They are, you know, they play such a prominent role in this expansion, and they have all sorts of races anyway. So yeah, no, I get it. I think a lot of people are a bit tired of the same story over and over again. It's getting a little bit tiresome, but yeah, I think I know what you're seeing, what I'm also seeing, what's going to happen probably with future expansions. That I don't think we'll get rid of it that quickly, unfortunately. It will be interesting to see where they're taking all of this. I do like how Blizzard creates their stories and their worlds, but I do think the faction conflict and war is becoming a little bit stale. It's the same thing.
Right.
And like you're saying, it doesn't make much sense anymore, you know? Like someone said on Twitter last week, you know, Bane and Anduin are like basically bros. And why I don't, you know, it feels weird having your subjects fight against each other. Even though there can be a lot of misogyny, you know, towards races, and they're like, you know, old blood. I mean, especially between trolls and elves and things like that. But I don't know. It's I think time for something fresh. I would like something new, something different.
And I, you know, and it spills over into the player base. And it's like, look, we all love this game. We're more alike than we are different. We're gamers who love Blizzard games. Like, you know, we shouldn't let this artificial thing divide us.
Yeah, especially, you know, I think nowadays with things, it's nice to unite about something. But saying that, I will immediately say that I very much like seeing people yell for the Alliance, and I like seeing people yelling for the Horde, because it's like a football thing, isn't it? You know, but people out there aren't hating on. You still all love football. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be nice if we change it up a bit. I want a bit of a fresher take on it. Hopefully in the future. Right. Okay. Talking about the community, what has the Warcraft community meant to you?
Oh wow. You know, they've been incredible. My first kind of exposure to it was back in BC with the main tanking community, where you had paladins on various servers coming together. We were trying to figure out paladin tanking. It was a brand new thing. Nobody understood it, and we were all coming together. We helped each other. You know, we got on. You know, we eventually so we did it all through BC, and then we got together on the Wrath beta server, and it's one of my favorite screenshots, because it's all of us lined up in the cave where Arthas got Frostmourne. So and then, you know, the people that it's really the people I've met through the community. I mean, I've got people that I've met through the WoW community that I would consider friends. I mean, it's all the, you know, it's led me to all the connections I've made at Blizzardwatch and all the incredible people that I've met there, that I work with there. So the community's just been an incredible source of friendship and really as a guy who, you know, I grew up in a time when it wasn't cool to be a geek and it wasn't cool to be into video games. And so the Warcraft community gave me a place where I felt like I belonged. And I didn't find that much before that. Like, you know, this is a group of people that I feel like I belong with, and that kind of accepts a lot of the things that I've always felt are weird about myself. They're like, no, dude, that's kind of cool. Us too.
Yeah, it's that sense of community, isn't it? Like finding your tribe.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's go to something that's a little bit out there. So my next question is, what's your favorite in-game food?
Gosh. So, being a guy who grew up in vanilla and BC, cooking and fishing were always, they were always real important to me because you needed them back then, right? So I've always had max level cooking. I've always had max level fishing. I've always done that. I haven't been real thrilled with the Nyaloth recipes just because they're a little freaky to me. Like, I don't want tentacles coming out of my food. Thank you. I basically the baked potato. It's the haste food from 8.2. I'm not getting the name right, but
is it baked potato?
Potato, yeah. So as a Glimmer Paladin, haste is like our number one stat. So I'm like, yeah, give me all the haste I can get, man. Just shovel it in. Just like fire up that fire, man. Let's get some going here.
And who doesn't like potatoes? Even if it's a potato, it's still potato. So
exactly.
All right. Well, Honors, we're on to the final question of the podcast, which is an odd question, as I always say. And the question is, what is your whisper? And if you are new here, and this is the first time listening to the show, a whisper can basically be anything. So it could be a wish for the game, any game mechanics you want implemented or taken out, a bit of theory crafting about the story. So what would be your whisper?
So I've always wanted them, as much as I adore my paladins, and it's always been my favorite class. I've always wanted the Tinker from Warcraft 3 to be a playable class. And when we started to see Mechagon, we were seeing all these hints in Island Expeditions. I thought for sure we were getting it in Shadowlands. Like, there were all these little hints. I mean, we had all this artwork done. We had Mechagon introduced. Like, they're going to introduce the Tinker class, and it's going to be the Volpera, and the Volpera are going to be an allied race, and the Mecha Gnomes are going to be an allied race, and they're going to be able to be Tinker Gnomes, and this is going to be awesome. I'm finally, and it was like, I mean, we were, there were all these little things. There's a group in Island Expeditions that is literally 3 Tinkers, and each of them is like, one's a healer, one's a tank, one's a DPS. I'm like, there it is. They are exactly like proof of concepting and testing it right here in these NPCs. And like, I was sure. And I think what happened was probably something they were thinking about. But when they decided to revamp leveling and redo the 1 through 10, that took all of the developer resources they had for a new class, which is why we didn't get a new class with Shadowlands. Yeah, it kind of maybe doesn't really fit with Shadowlands the way that like the Monk fit with Mop or the Death Knight fit with Wrath of the Lich King. They could have made it work. I mean, they shoved Mechagon into 8.2, so, or 8.3. I forget which one it was. So I mean, they could have done it, and I think it was something they were thinking about. There have been some other things, like there was a hunter talent called Spitting Cobra, which you could reskin into a Torborn style turret. So I think they were thinking about it, and they just kind of backed off when they realized they had to squish the levels and redo the leveling experience. But I want to play Tinker Gnomes, or Tinkers, I guess Tinker Goblins for the Horde.
It would be really, really cool. It would fit certain races so well as well with all of that, because we've seen so much in the game and in the lore about it. And yeah, I would like to see something like that. I think it would be nice maybe in the next expansion to, because they do seem to do a lot of like fan things in there now. They do listen to the players. I mean, the only thing we don't have yet is player housing and certain classes. Because with the Tinker, I could come up with Bard and Necromancer. That's something I hear a lot from people. So, yeah, maybe instead of races, we'll get that. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool.
It would be really cool. Okay, well, Honors, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. If people want to find you on the internet and get into touch with you, where can they do so?
The best way to get in touch with me is through my Twitter, at HonorsHammer. I'm fairly active on there. I love following and interacting with people, talking about WoW and Hearthstone and that kind of stuff. It's a dedicated gaming account. You won't see much of anything else on that account. I've got another Twitter account where I talk about IRL stuff, but on Honor's Hammer, it's pretty much 100% gaming. And then you can always check out my stuff on Blizzardwatch. I've got a weekly article coming out on the Tavern Brawl. I'll be covering various aspects of the launch as we go. So those are really the best two places to find me.
Very, very cool. And I'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes as well. So thank you again for being a wonderful guest. And hopefully you want to come back once Shadowlands is out for a bit so we can talk about that.
Be glad to come back anytime.
Perfect. So I hope you enjoyed that interview. And then, of course, check out Blizzardwatch because why wouldn't you? So let's jump into my week in Warcraft. That's so weird saying that now at the end, but I actually did quite a lot. Maybe not so much in the beginning of the week because I was really umming and ahhing of what to do. And now that I've made the decision, I'm actually starting to play a lot more again. So over the weekend, I've actually played quite a bit. I decided I'm not going to level anymore, even as I feel very tempted to do it because we have about less than 2 months. That sounds weird. Less than 2 months to get, everything in that you want to do before launch. And of course the pre-patch, that's probably in like 4 weeks. I'm going to say I think pre-patch is going to be, I'm just picking up my calendar, and I think it's going to be 23rd or 24th. Something like that. I think, in that week of the 21st of September, I think that's when pre-patch will be live. So we shall see. That would be nice with all the new class changes, and I think we're going to get the customization then as well. I'm not entirely sure. I hope so. God, I hope so, because otherwise, as soon as Shadowlands is out, I'm not going to quest first. The first thing I'm going to do is going to the barbershop to get my look updated. So that is something. Right now I actually wrote down a very, very big thing of stuff that I'm going to do. And I have settled on a main. So in beta, I actually played beta a lot. Beta, beta, potato, or I don't know, English. In the beta, I decided, you know what, let's just go back to Sub-Rogue and see if I could still fall in love with it. And I had such a fucking blast. I really enjoyed it. I loved the stealth mechanics again. I loved Vanish. I loved popping up behind enemies and having all the little tricks that you can have. Yeah, it was really, really cool. I enjoyed it. Maybe it doesn't pack a punch yet. Not at times. Some things are really, really good. There are some things I'm like, okay, yeah, it's not maybe as powerful as, for instance, my paladin was or my warrior when I tried it. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I think that's really important. Now, I'll be honest, I am not a massive fan anymore of the Void Elves. I don't know if it's because they're very wispy, but there's something to say for that. I think I have to say that I've fallen a little bit in love with the new customization for Night Elves, because there's a hairstyle in there that I absolutely adore, and it's called the Sombra, which if you've played Overwatch, you'll know what kind of hairstyle that is. I really like that, but I decided to stick with the Void Elf. I'm just going to make her, and yes, I am going to be one of those, make her look like a high elf. So she's going to get a very quote-unquote normal skin color, not the purple or the blue, but just a normal color like you and I have. And I'll give her probably blue eyes. And for the hair, that's actually one of the things that I quite like. So you don't get a lot of hair style options compared to the main races. So the allied races are still a little bit like shat on in that view, because yeah, your hairstyles don't really update. And I did see a really cool color in there, which I'm going to use. And you know what? I have always been a massive fan of the X-Men Psylocke. And I can give her that kind of purple hair and that kind of look. And I thought, you know what? You're going to be my Psylocke. So that's what I'm doing. And I've had more peace with that since I've created her in the beta looking like that. I was actually like, yeah, I quite like this look. So yes, I am going to be maining a sub-rogue. Now, I wouldn't be me if that didn't mean I had an army of alts lined up, which are going to be leveled as soon as my rogue reaches max level. And call me crazy, because I am. I already know which classes I am going to level, and also in which order, and why. So, rogues first. The next one I'm going to level up is my paladin, the one that I've been leveling lately, which was Jester. I really like what they're doing with Draenei. Again, the customization was a big thing, and I've been enjoying paladin quite a bit. That is the one class I would not mind tanking on, or trying tanking again. I've done it in the past in several expansions on a paladin, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it's because of the shield action and all of that, and the hammer. So yeah, that's one of those classes I'm like, you know what, I quite enjoy this class on multiple levels. So that will be my second one. And I think I'm going for the boring one with Kyrian on her, because I think Bastion just suits best for her. But there is another choice, and I'll come back to that later. So the other class, because you know you have so many covenants, I do want to see all the stories and all of the gear that you can get. So the next one I'm going to get is my warrior. I really enjoyed Fury Warrior. To an extent, I also really like arms. I've never tried protection, but I liked the 2 DPS specs, and especially Fury. So I am also going to level my warrior up. I am not quite sure where I'm putting her. It might actually be Revendreth. I have no idea if that's a good or a bad thing, but I just want to see something else. Because I'm actually putting my rogue in Maldraxxus. Because when I saw Draka, I always thought I'm going to put my rogue, if that's going to be my main, in Revendreth. Because it feels quite natural. However, when I saw Draka, I was really blown away with how cool she looked in like some of the cinematics that we've seen, the stuff. And I thought, yeah, I want to be part of that. Now, I'll have to admit, it might still switch over, because I can also see my warrior fitting into Maldraxxus really well. So that's that. And actually, for my fourth one, and this is really weird, and you're probably going to go, what the fuck? I'm going to quest with another rogue. So, as you might have guessed, I have several rogues on my server. And I have 4. So, this rogue, I am going to either level as sub or assassin. One of the two, just because I want to see how they play. Main is definitely going to be sub. This one I need to think about. But I think I might want her to... And she's a human, and I think I might want to make her my RP character as well. One of my main RP characters. I can't really do that on a Void Elf. And I am very tempted to go to Ardenwold with her. Because there's a lot of things with Bronze Sandy in there, and I find that quite interesting. So, yeah. I might do that. I'm not entirely sure yet. But I do want to, have characters in all of the 4 covenants. Now, all of these characters are alliance. So, of course, I also need to level something on the Horde. And because my guildies are all alliance, that's where I will go first. The first 4 will all be my alliance characters. And then afterwards, when there's a bit of a lull, or in between when I want to do something else, I am going to gear up or level up 3 horde characters. So only 3, not 4. And the classes again are warrior, rogue, and paladin. I've really stuck to these. Now I might actually throw a warlock in there, but ranged DPS is still something that I'm not 100% with. Maybe I will put a hunter in there, one of the two, hunter or a warlock, because I guess I would want a pet class. But we shall see. Healers are definitely out. I was thinking about druid. I really gave it an honest shot, but I'm not in love anymore with Moonkin, and ever since that whole eclipse, kind of like the phases of the moon stuff came back, I'm just not enjoying that at one bit. So yeah, I don't think druid is for me. So my 4th one, really for the horde side, is a little bit undecided. So it's either going to be a hunter or a warlock, but we shall see. I mean, again, those are not going to be characters that I'm going to do anything high with. It's really just, how does it play? Am I going to have fun? I mostly just want to see story on the horde side, but again, I want to see if it's any different, and I can see that with the first horde character that I level on horde side. Say that I go to Revendreth with my alliance character. If I go on horde side, is it exactly the same, or is it going to be a little bit different? That's I'm curious about that. But yeah, I have a plan for all of these characters as well. So today I actually went through all my characters, checked what they had in their banks, send it all to the bank alts, and on both sides. I'm going to sell loads of shit in the coming weeks. Maybe I'll do it in the pre-patch, because I heard that that's a good time to sell. So I might keep it until pre-patch. I will... I checked banks and make sure that everything was empty. Bags, the same thing. Are all the bags empty? And I checked on all my alts which ones were still hoarding gold, because I have a tendency to send gold to alts that are leveling so that they can buy their flying, they can buy their transmogs, because God knows transmogs are important when you're leveling. But yeah, some of them did have quite a lot of gold. I think on one character on the horde side I was actually really surprised with how much gold one of my alts had. So I send that now to the main characters that I will be leveling. So on horde side it will be again a rogue, and on the alliance that will also be a rogue. So those two are my money characters now. They have all the cash, and once I'm done with that, I probably will send a little bit to the alts that I'll be leveling. But yeah, guys, it's going to be a rogue, unless they really fuck me over in a few weeks and change a lot to subtlety rogue. Because then I might have to go to the next best. And I think the next one, that's going to be very difficult to decipher if I want to have a warrior or a paladin then as a main. So if rogue doesn't work out. I guess leveling will, you know, give some clarity, I guess. So we shall see. But for now, I think, yeah, rogue. And it feels kind of good to finally have something like, okay, this is it now. I don't have to worry about this anymore. So now for the next weeks, I am going to still run around in beta. I got severe anxiety in the first quest line. And I don't want to spoil things. So if you want to skip for a few minutes, that's fine, because I'm going to start to talk a little bit about the first questline and why it gave me anxiety. So basically you go into the maw to rescue the faction leaders that have been kidnapped by Sylvanas. And so I rescued Jaina, Anduin, Bane, and Thrall. We can't find Tyrande, I don't know, she's off doing something. And then we had to, you know, you go through the maw, you try to fight off enemies, and you try to escape the maw. And you find this portal, and this portal is not, you know, loading properly. You touch it, and then you are transferred to that main area for every player, I guess. And I'm like, okay, yeah, people, you're talking and sending me to all these, because then you get sent to Bastion. I'm like, but my friends are still in the mall. Can we just go back and like pick them up or something? And that gave me huge anxiety that I thought, well, but they're still there. I just, left them. What the fuck? So, yeah. Little bit of a anxious bunny there. But it was really cool to see everything and to experiencing everything. And I just enjoy being a rogue and just sneaking past everything. That made it so much more fun and easy for me as well. Yeah. So... having a blast in Shadowlands beta. I can't wait for the live version, but like I said, I need to gear some of these characters because I've just, when you start leveling and then you're in heirlooms and then you ding the max level and you're like, right, I'm done now, and you just run off and your eye level is atrocious and you can't really like squat a fly. That's where I'm at with the warrior and the paladin on both sides. So I need to gear them up a little bit. I don't know if it's worth getting the cloak and the cloak. I think the necklace is like, that doesn't really cost much time. Cloak is a different one. I might just do it just for now, because I'm sure that in Shadowlands we'll get to replace it again soon enough. But it will help a little bit with everything else. And on the rogue, I think I'm just going to do visions a little bit more, and everything else. I also need to get some mounts still. So yeah, I feel like now I have something to go for again in World of Warcraft. I feel like I have a bit of clarity of what to do, which is very nice for me, who's always indecisive and doesn't know what to do. But again, of course, I need to level an army of alts. I can't settle on one character. I need to have many. So that is it. But yeah, and that's why I turned it around a little bit, because what would be the point in saying, yeah, guys, I'm leveling a rogue for Shadowlands, but send me in your mail with what I should level. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. So there you have it. Anyhow, next week is show 100, and a bit of a big ask, because I know some people hate doing it, but I would really appreciate it if you guys could send me a voicemail. It doesn't have to be long. It can just be very short, even if it's like under a minute. If you talk fast, that's fine. And I think you can even do that from your phone and send it if you want to. That's fine. It doesn't have to be high quality. You know what my editing is like, so it's all good. But I would really, really like a voicemail which you either say which was the episodes with the guests that I had that you really enjoyed listening to, and why. So it could be maybe one of the guests that you thought was really interesting, or a subject that we discussed, or you could tell me which NPC it is that you really want to see in Shadowlands and what you're looking forward to the most. That would be really cool. If you want to do both and put it in one MP3, that's fine as well. Either or. So if you want to send the MP3 or the WAV, depends how you want to record it. I can convert most files anyway. Then you can send that to my Gmail account. So the email for that is whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com. And I would really be grateful if you guys could send that before is it the 5th or the 6th? It depends a bit. If I get some late ones on Monday, then I'll record on the Tuesday. But I would really, really appreciate that. If you'd prefer to send an email, that's fine as well. I will also post this on Twitter, so you can just write a tweet. But I thought it would be nice to hear you guys talk for once, and not just me for an endless long time. So yeah, that's for show 100, because I never thought I would reach show 100, to be honest, because knowing me, I sometimes get a bit flaky. So yeah, it's been really cool. Anyhow, this is how you can reach the show in other ways. So go to whispersofwar.podbean.com, where you can find all the show notes, or go to dragonpoweredstudio.com /Discord if you want to be part of the conversation. Twitter @whispers_of_war. And my personal one is McMonkeys with a Z. Email again, whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow me on twitch.tv/McMonkeys with 2 Zs. That's also my Instagram, McMonkeys, if you want to follow me there. It's a lot of cat pictures, I can tell you that now. Because I absolutely adore my little Inkitty. So, that's it. I wish you all an amazing week in World of Warcraft. And I hope that you will join me for show 100 next week. Bye-bye!
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.